I do want to talk about Kawhi Leonard because he and I sat face to face and he was explaining, he said, I would not be in these finals without load management. You and I talked about this at the draft lottery. I know that most players are not in his position of coming back from a year-long injury, but there's a lot of guys in this league, big stars, who are nursing one thing or another. How much do you think that's going to spread next year to other teams and other guys?
The answer is I'm not sure, but as I said to you before, that term load management is generally used in regard to rest.
Right.
That's not what the protocol was for Kawhi.
Right.
We had a player coming back from having missed almost an entire season, and that was a protocol designed by doctors, physical therapists, as to the right way to bring him back to full health. So it's very different, I think, for a player who's otherwise completely healthy, who then chooses to sit out. And the fact is, most players don't want to follow that protocol. And if you look around the league at other players who missed significant number of games, they didn't, as a result, perform at the level of Kawhi. So, I mean, look, the injury to Kevin Durant is, of course, absolutely devastating. And I think we and the Players Association are committed to finding the best science, the best medical practices to keeping our players healthy. We have a relationship with GE Healthcare. We've done studies on, you know, on soft tissue injuries, on rests, on particularly on tendons, and to see on the impact. I mean, these are players at this level who, beginning at, 14 years old, are playing a basketball around the clock. That may not be obviously the best thing for them. So it may go well beyond the number of games we have in a season. I think we have to take a holistic view at their health and well-being, and what's the way to keep them healthy and playing at a high level for the longest amount of time as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny you bring up KD because, wow, such a blow. Here's a guy who finally, right after wanting to be recognized as the best player in the league, he explicitly said that for years. I think the consensus was going into these finals that he had reached that point of being the best current player in the league. Now it appears
Kawhi's right there, but I'm not going to do the
He had gotten his moment, and the idea that he is now going to be about, I mean, Achilles ruptures usually take about a year to recover from. What impact does that have on the NBA at large, that one of the top 2-3 players is just going to be gone?
It's, as I said, I mean, it's one, first from a personal standpoint for Kevin. I think what a lot of fans don't realize is how hard the elite players work. And Kevin is one of the hardest working of the elite.
Right.
And I think there's something, just because these players are so incredibly talented, that it's taken for granted sometimes. And I know for him how hard he's conditioned and worked on his body since the moment he came into this league, how hard he's worked over the past month to get back on the floor. So I feel, of course, for him personally.
Yep.
I think beyond that, as a league, we're only as big as our players, and he's one of the greatest stars in this league, so it'll be a huge loss not to have him. Of course, having said that, other players will step up, but he's a unique player. I mean, I think the caliber at which he plays, the spirit and passion he brings to the game, puts him in that very elite category. And so all we can do is, root for him to come back at full speed. And I know it won't be for lack of effort on his part. I'm sure he's going to begin rehabbing the moment his doctors allow it.
Absolutely. And look, it's 17 days until free agency starts. Kevin was supposed to be one of the guys we were going to watch the closest to see if he stayed here in Golden State, decided to go elsewhere. You guys moved the deadline, or the opening up of free agency. It used to be midnight on July 1st.
Running the lobbying campaign.
I believe that I may have mentioned 6, 12, 204 times that you should make it earlier in the day. So I'm thrilled, Adam. Thank you very much. At 6 p.m. on June 30th.
I'm embarrassed that is actually a big deal, that we moved the opportunity to negotiate with teams 6 hours earlier.
Yes.
But we did.
But what impact do you think that's going to have?
Not much.
Right.
I mean, honestly, it's 6 hours earlier. But I think for the people covering our league, for the players, it seemed a little ridiculous to start meetings at midnight and to extend it 6 p.m. in the East now. That makes a little bit more sense. But in the scope of things, no, I don't think it's all that significant.
Are we pretending for the purposes of this interview that meetings really did start at midnight? Is that how we should do it?
I'd like to believe the actual meetings.
Okay, I'll give you
there were some rules on the ability to schedule meetings before then.
We did have one of the most memorable draft lotteries, I think, ever, right? The other night. It was fantastic. Do you get the feeling that, hey, this is a success? All of the lottery reform we worked on so hard.
I'd say the math is the math, of course. Right. So we changed the odds 25% to 14%. From that standpoint, it's almost regardless of the actual results, because it becomes random at a certain point based on the statistics. Where I think it's the greatest success is hopefully it'll stop fans in those markets from rooting for their teams to perform poorly.
Right.
Because that race to the bottom is just destructive, I think, for everyone. Corrosive for players and franchises, and I think in some cases, even some executives who knew better felt they couldn't withstand the pressure from the communities, from the media in some cases, say, why are you sort of just operating at this level when you should either get much better or much worse? I think in this case now with the change in the lottery, people are going to realize that there's only one way to build a franchise. Of course, you need to get great players, but at the same time, you need to build culture, you need strong management, you need strong coaching, and players incrementally get better year after year. And look at these two great franchises. I mean, both of them, it's wonderful from a league standpoint to see the Warriors and the Raptors, two incredibly well-run franchises from top to bottom here representing the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. We'll meet again in 17 days to see just how crazy this league is going to get, but congratulations on a fantastic finals. It's been so competitive, so many people in now multiple countries glued to their seats, and then of course all around the globe.
Well, and thank you for your coverage throughout the season.